Okay. So basically, in her introduction, she begins talking about the statistics behind the suicide rate for 5 to 11-year-old African American or Black children in 2016 had exceeded that of their white peers. And it said while the suicide rates had declined for white children, they increased for Black children. And she was saying that implies an epidemic in Black mental health. And 2 years after that, it found the same pattern in saying that suicide for Black children is increasing. And she believes that the emotional distress of our children shows us that we are losing cultural values, which for hundreds of years have protected many African Americans from killing ourselves. And she said, we're at the intersection of overwhelming, unaddressed stress in the absence of cultural identity to help fix it. So I was going to ask, what do we think has been contributing to the increase in the suicide rate amongst Black children?
Honestly, personally, I thought when I do see stories, the few stories I saw some years ago of Black kids killing themselves and they were so young, I was like, what's going on? What's wrong? Is it stuff going on at home? Like, it could be a myriad of factors, but mostly they said it was a bullying at school. And I'm just like, what? I don't know if there's a distortion, like if there's something about like maybe we're having kids too young to be able to teach them strength or like actually like going through something or something. I don't know what it is. I know we're born with higher stress levels already. Um, and feeling like you're not a part of something, being ostracized is definitely some of the most stressful things you can do. But we were being ostracized even back then. I can't remember that guy's name, but the first guy who even went to a black college, well, a white college, he was the only one there the entire time. He was all alone, and like he was an adult at that point, but from childhood, well, I guess because we had a shared experience though back then, and now it just seems like everything's one on one. So maybe that is it, the loss of culture, the loss of community, and you feel like nobody's there or they'll understand. And when you feel alone like that and you don't have proper guidance,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right uh, about a lot of that. And I think some of it can be look at how much people are having to work now. Um, is that time really being spent with their children, or is it something where their children are being left alone a lot and basically having to raise themselves? Also, you have to think about social media. Um, Social media has put a lot of pressure on young people. It's something that we didn't experience when we were that age, because when you think about it, we didn't grow up with that type of pressure. You didn't have to worry about somebody taking an embarrassing video of you and, putting it out there for the world to see. You know,
Sure.
the embarrassing things that we did it, but it wasn't broadcast to the world. Like, you could have been drunk at a party back in the day. You could have um, tripped and fell somewhere and it just stayed there, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But now everything has a spotlight on it, and you're feeling the pressure as a young person. You think about having to deal with all of these Instagram filtered bodies and faces, and how now the societal pressure to be able to dress a certain way or look a certain way it's a lot for them, I think. Um, the other thing that she points out is there's a lot of denial when it comes to mental issues in the Black community. And she first started with the church. And she said that there was a survey conducted where a church pastor would ask their opinions about Black suicide. And they responded by saying that suicide was a denial of Black identity and culture. And
Yeah,
she said to
amazing.
them, being Black is about struggle. There are no easy answers or easy outs. And the overarching message from the pastors was that suicide is a white thing and that Black people are supposed to be resilient because of their history of struggle and making a way despite being left out of mainstream society politically, economically, and socially. And I think that's kind of reflective of what the beliefs are in the Black community, is why you don't see people um, calling out for help or seeking out certain resources, because Black people don't commit suicide. That's a white thing. You know, white people do that. Black people don't have mental illnesses. And I think that plays a huge role too. What about you?
Yeah, and I had just read that right before you mentioned it, and I was like, yeah. Honestly, I felt the same way because we're taught we're supposed to be strong. We're stronger than we think, and I thought it was more of a white thing. And the funny part is, I tried to kill myself 3 times in high school, and my friend has tried to kill himself. I don't know how many times, and we're both Black, but we still feel like we're supposed to be strong, and like that was anomalies. And to this day, he still doesn't care about his life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know. It's crazy how it really does feel like, because I didn't even know certain things like Lifetime. I grew up. I started watching that, and that's how I learned how to. That's when I first learned about burning yourself and cutting yourself and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started trying that dumbass shit. So, um, yeah, it really does feel like it's a white thing now. Black people, we strong. We got this. We'll make it. We've been through worse. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like y'all said, it's that catch-22. Like the propaganda white people put out, whether it appears good or bad, is destabilizing us because, oh yeah, you're strong, you're fine, you'll get through it. And they're not taking our pain levels, our pain is as seriously as they would somebody who's white, or thinking that we're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
being crybabies about something. Like, it's the catch-22. You think we're so strong we can't break, but we're human, and we don't realize that we're supposed to be human too. We think we're so strong we can't break. I just watched it on my show where this woman, she's pregnant, and she's just got into a really bad car accident. Her She's having to take physical therapy to walk correctly again, and her leg and thighs busted up, but she's still trying to do things on her own. She won't let nobody help her, and she ended
Mm-hmm.
up getting stuck in the backseat of her car for 6 hours. And before she finally called for help, and they were telling her they expect women of color to be so strong, but you have to realize it's not weak to ask for help. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, damn. So I think that's what it is too, that we all believe that we're so strong thing, and that we are just the anomaly in the situation, when really it's the same across the board.
Right. Hey, Monique, you want to add something?
Hey ladies, how are you this afternoon?
Good. Good to hear from you.
I know I've been super busy. Been doing everything. I'm like, oh wait, today you did. I saw your post, and I was like, oh yeah, let me hop on there right quick.
It's so hard to get back into the groove of things when you've been so busy doing other stuff. And I was like, nah, I've been missing, like, seriously, when I say that I've been missing these Sundays, like I really have. been missing these
I'm
Sundays. So
your Chick-fil-A. I always crave Chick-fil-A on Sunday. And by the time I remember the meeting, I'm like, it's 4:00, whatever.
Why don't you do that? I was like, oh, Chick-fil-A sound real good. Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do the meeting like that every Sunday. Like, shit, it's 12, not 4. Okay. I'm gonna try again next week. Crazy.
But no, and it's funny that you said that because of that, I was thinking that I would probably try to in the future actually find us a place where we can meet up, good social distancing and all that. But then where we can actually see each other. And then that way you're like, yeah, I gotta get to this place. So you're not thinking.
I promise you, because being at home, it's like, ooh, this week been a long week, and then look up and I'm like, oh man.
And that'll help me shine to keep people's names and faces straight. So,
No, that'll help you keep people's names and faces straight. You still haven't figured it out yet.
But what we were talking about, because I didn't even get a chance to get the book. So what we're talking
you don't
about
have for this discussion, you ain't even gotta read. It's basically stuff that we just deal with, period. But we were talking about why is it that the suicide rates are so high for the Black youth, and we were talking about what do we think those contributing factors were. So we touched on peer pressure. Maybe there's not a lot of interaction with the parents because they may have to work long hours outside the home. We talked about social media, and then we had just gotten to what the church's response was about Black people and suicide, and they the pastors they surveyed basically kind of said that's a white thing.
Oh yeah, that's a normal thing in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
We did used to have those problems, but for me and my perspective, I think sometimes we put too much on the peers.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, we're spiritual beings in a physical body. And so the only time people really know about spirituality if their parents are Christians, and that's not always great because every church and every leader isn't great. But church and your foundation of how to handle life starts at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of moms and dads and grandmoms and aunts that can't handle their own shit but expect the kids to be able to causes suicide. Or like if you be out and you'll hear people say, with your stupid dumb ass. You get on my nerves with your ugly self. You ain't gonna never be nobody. You like, God, that's your kid? Like that's normal language. And if the people who's supposed to love you and you love them, it's dysfunctional love. I don't care what people say. I don't care if you say you loyal and your family tight. If it's dysfunction, it's dysfunction. And if your sanctuary, your home base tells you you're not shit, you're worth nothing, you need to die and stuff, why would you not feel like that's the solution to ending your problems?
Right.
Like I'm stupid anyway. I ain't gonna be worth nothing anyway. I ain't gonna never be successful. Those dreams, who dreams that way? Like I've heard parents tell their kids, what make you think you can get that? And they don't know how to handle stress. Parents feel that way about themselves. Or you'll see parents that have anxiety and stress and all they do is scream. And the kids know they don't like to be screamed at or be abused. And then they get older and they accept it. But your natural spiritual being knows that's not what you need. So you have an internal battle. A person who does wrong, that's why sometimes I get older and judge people. People can be living in the gutter and do every bad thing under the sun. But at some point, something inside of them goes, is this even right? And that's like your spiritual being going like, this is not what you were created for. It's supposed to be more. But if the world has told you this is how you handle things, then That's what you fall for. And because of that, now you produce a younger generation who talks about their pain. And like recently, my daughter, she was like, I don't even like this song. I don't even know what he be talking about. But you got a generation of kids that are rapping now and singing their experience. So they're talking about, I wish I could just die. And then there's other people listening like, oh, I can relate to that.
Mm.
And that's why we see more of that now in our culture, because now it's being spoke. People speak out their experiences. They speak out what's going on. And when you got a group, it's like church. You got a group of people like, y'all understand that. Like now we're agreeing on that's the right thing to do. And I think we have to be careful about agreeing because again, we're spiritual beings. You're agreeing with that's okay. And then they're like, well, if nobody loves me and or whatever, I just end life because that's the solution to the problem. And they're not surrounded by people that can show them, child, that ain't that bad.
Mm-hmm. She says in the book that she said people who die by suicide, they don't want to die. They just want their emotional pain to end. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you're in that kind of pain, you don't want to ask for help because your pain doesn't register as a crisis to other people because they think and you think you're supposed to have the strength to handle whatever you have going on in your life, so you don't get help or reach out to help
Because
someone.
we brought that up, especially amongst women.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my own people get on my nerves. Like, well, like you said online, I was telling somebody this the other day. I never forget somebody was like, it ain't worth it. I'm just gonna go ahead and end my life. And the amount of people that went, oh, you just need to pray.
Mm-hmm.
Or why are you on Facebook? You being so dramatic. And then I was like, some of these people in your family, they didn't drop the phone and go see where you at.
Right.
Like at that point, if somebody says it, I don't care if you think it's a joke or not. That is something serious. And the amount of people that'll go, you just need to pray. Everything gonna be all right. Okay, the person just said they need a solution. Because she correct, most people don't want to die. They just don't want to hurt. That's like when you're sick in your physical body is in pain, you try to find a pill or something to relieve it. That's why a lot of people smoke now
Mm-hmm.
or pop pills. They're self-medicating
Right.
because nobody says therapy is normal.
Mm-hmm. And then she said dealing with stuff like that. So what if you don't kill yourself, attempt to kill yourself, but you have a stroke or a heart attack or an emotional breakdown? So is it a suicide attempt if you had a heart attack? You see what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to say that people need to stop equating that with, what we were just talking about people just really wanting to die and they really don't. They're just trying to find an end to the emotional pain.
Yeah, and a lot of people just don't have that answer.
Mm-hmm.
And in our community, most of it is church. I'm like, man, okay, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But there are people who just go to church to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there are leaders who have been subconsciously programmed for decades. And they're just repeating what several pastors before them said, never
Mm-hmm.
validating if it's right or wrong. And they're saying they're hearing from they're from God and they're not. Thing is, God is in everybody, even to the most wicked person that you think he shouldn't be in, he's in. And that means he's in a therapist.
Right.
That means he's in a professional. Like you have to seek him. And I think a lot of times in our community, it's like, well, you lack faith. Well, if you never gave them something to have faith in, you killed their dreams. Why would they feel like they can find a solution? If a person says they're tired of not being loved, like a lot of times we judge people. Suicide, you can look at it, but even before suicide, there are people who will go have sex with tons of people and jump from relationship to relationship. People are like, oh, they just such a hoe. And they're longing to be loved. But
Right.
because they don't know what that is, and I don't care if their parents be like, I love them. Well, maybe you did, but not their love language. They're going to seek that somewhere to eventually that turns into depression of nobody loves me. How do I end this? Because I'm not lovable.
Right.
And if you're just constantly nagging them and going, well, because I heard somebody one time, this was on social media too, the person like, I just want to die. And their own family member was like, well, go kill yourself then, because I'm sick of you saying it.
Mm,
I was
I was
about to
like,
say,
oh,
I heard people say that
okay.
a lot, and I
mm.
Oh,
hated that.
yeah. I was like, wow, that's wow. And I was like, and what if they do? You'll be the first one making a shirt and trying to throw a party every year.
Right. You just
They
told
needed you when they were alive.
You know what? I think it's a good example because I'm glad you said that. I saw a case and I can't remember where it was, but this child committed suicide and they ended up charging, was it the girlfriend or the friend with the crime because she was sending him all these text messages telling him to do it, to just
Yeah.
go
Mhm.
ahead and end it. So they end up charging her
Mm-hmm.
um, for
Is that like
contributing.
assisted suicide?
Yeah, contributing to his death type thing.
Mm.
But yeah, because people will do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking when I saw that, I was just like, whoa, wait. I think I ended
Yeah,
up blocking people because I was like, that just took me through there. Because when people, because you never know what's in a person's mind and you don't know how they're processing things. But if somebody voices, I want to die, I don't care if later they say they were playing. Somewhere you're not playing. Nobody would voice that if they weren't thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's at that point you got to be like, you know what? You have sometimes have to admit, I honestly don't know what you're going through, but what I can do is be there for you so we can figure out who can give it to you. But again, that's really hard in our community because a lot of times, like I said, if it's not you need to fall on Jesus, it's, well, my family's first. So you're an outsider. And if you're telling me I need to go to see a professional or you're giving me the solution, if their family says it's not the solution, they're not going to listen,
Mm.
no matter how old they are, from a kid to an adult. Well, my family said, well, okay, go over there with you and your family. What have they produced to get you out of your solution? What have they produced for you not to be sad or feel like you shouldn't live anymore? Like, okay, they'll go to church all the time. Has that helped anybody?
Right.
Are y'all still producing, existence, or y'all producing thriving? Like at some point you even have to like say, okay, sometimes you have to disconnect from your environment or your family to get your solution because they can't give you the answers. That is really difficult in our community because most people have been taught your family is your foundation and next to family is God. If those two people can't help you, then you need to put your big girl panties on or put on your big boy boxers and you just need to live life because life is hard. And what the fuck is you complaining for? We all got problems. But the truth is, life doesn't have to be hard. That's just their experience and they're passing it on. And so a lot of our kids are finding outlets. And like I said, this one song, Madison was like, Mom, come listen to this. And I could not believe that a record company put out this song because it was like a death. It was just sad, like change your whole frequency. But the amount of people that say they resonate with it is like, oh, okay.
What is this? What song is this?
What is that? What is his name? I gotta ask Madison when she wakes up. But it's a rapper. He's young, but legit, like most of his songs is about the one song she shared with me. He was talking about suicide and how he wanted to kill himself. Life wasn't worth it. The next song, it was pretty much kind of like it's just sad. You pretty much created a whole album about why care about anything. Depression is real. I have these suicidal visions or visions of harming people. And if I'm not mistaken, he probably went to jail because I think you hurt somebody. But it was just wicked. But the amount of people who was like, yeah, I resonate with him. It's like, well, okay.
Mm.
You
Wow.
know,
Interesting.
I'm going to have to ask her when she comes out of there because I just cannot believe that was produced. But it's a learning lesson because now you get to see what the rest of the world is like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, people don't understand that they're functional, high functioning, depressed people.
Right. I'm one of those people.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I used to be depressed before high functioning because we're forced to be high functional. Girl, you got to go pay bills and stuff. I'm sad, but bills don't care about me being sad.
Right.
So let me go to work. Or if you try to vent to somebody and they look at you and be like, I got my own problems. Like, you're high functioning, stressed, high functioning, depressed.
Right.
And you just you figure out how to work with it. But that doesn't mean it's right.
It doesn't. You know, for me, for mine, I'm an emotional eater, so I turn to food a lot. And that's one of the things she was talking about is, you know, you don't think you're killing yourself, but when you're eating what you shouldn't because you're emotional eating,
You're harming yourself.
you're harming yourself because you're using that to soothe emotional pain in the short term, and then you're shortening your life in the long term.
Because like for me, mine's money I spend. So if I get anxious, I'm gonna do one or two things. If I'm just like all over the place and I'm like in a blue state of mind, I'm either spending money like I'm a drug dealer or I'm procrastinating and I'm not doing nothing. Like, girl, I'm just trying to pass that off. I just can't deal with it right now. And which creates more stress because then at the last minute I'm doing stuff. But because it's productive to other people, they're like, oh, she's so strong, she gets stuff done. And it's like, do you know how much I had convinced myself? Like when I used to have those moments, do you know how long it took me to convince myself to do it? And why I was worthy too. And that was like 7 years ago. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. And that's when I went to therapy. I tell people all the time, they're like, I'm gonna tell nobody, why not?
Right.
I went to therapy because I gotta win this battle.
And you know,
Right.
and people always do stuff like that. And I'll tell you, you know, when I posted the post that I did about, you know, the stuff that I went through and still going through. And so the next thing I know, like my mom makes a little story post and she like, if anybody got something they want to say to me, then they can just say it to me. It's like, you can't get mad at my truth because that is my truth. And I'm going to live my truth. And if you feel some type of way about the decisions that you made, then that's on you. You know, you need to seek therapy for that. But I'm not going to not talk about what my story is of what I've had to go through.
Yeah.
And, you know, how it's made me the person that I am today.
Yeah, because you have to mentally imprison yourself to make her comfortable.
Right.
Because my mom's kind of like that. I tell people, I had no bad life. My life was great. But everybody has some kind of conflict with somebody. So some things my mom might have did that it wasn't harmful, but it didn't rub me the right way.
Right.
And if I tell her I go to therapy, she'll be like, what? Well, for the longest, you don't believe me. And that's why I always speak my truth and online, and I share more about my self-care journey because it's about you and your being. Because I realized that when I started my own journey, people kind of look at you funny. And they're like, what's wrong with her? But then the amount of people that wouldn't say nothing, but then later inbox me or see me in a corner and be like, you know, I didn't want to say nothing in front of other people, which you have a right. People should know your business. It's my choice to be vulnerable. But for you to be like, if because of you and you sharing your story, I was able to go get help.
Right.
Or I could see it different. I didn't know I could speak up and be like, my mom was great, but what she taught me didn't help me. You know, because I'll say stuff like, yeah, my mama didn't live in a different, they lived in a different era. So when they pass knowledge to you or their solutions, it might have fit them and what they went through. But if I never went through what my mom went through or somebody else went through, it doesn't help me. It may harm me. So I have to fix that. But a lot of us are not open enough to share our life. And that's not everybody's assignment. But I think a lot of us need to, because it doesn't benefit you to suffer in silence. It doesn't benefit you to continuously be around people who remind you of it.
Right.
And you can't speak your truth because it's like, well, if I do, then I'm going to be disrespectful. How?
Right.
How's that disrespectful? That's what's wrong with a lot of the kids that think about suicide. Your parent said something to you that they may not, it's not that your parents intentionally do it, but they said something or it reminded you of something. And you get ready to say, well, what you did hurt my feelings or I don't like it. And what a black parent gonna say? Don't you talk back to me. Don't disrespect me. I'm still your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm still your daddy, or the amount of people I'll see online that are hurting and they'll be like, well, a family member sexually abused me, but you still gotta go to the family function and see them.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
hell?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Who we jumping him? I don't care if we
Exactly.
related. Like you can't come because you're harming everybody.
Right.
And then you'll still have that person and know that they do that. And now it's a whole nother generation and you got kids and stuff around them. Like somebody has to say we cannot do that
Mm-hmm.
so other people will feel safe and know, okay, the solution is I can have respect for my body and boundaries and say, no, I don't have to tolerate this. Or,
Right.
yes, I can overcome this because I saw my cousin or my sister or my aunt. She went through the same thing, but look how she's thriving. If she was able to seek therapy and she was fine, that's a solution for me
Mm-hmm.
versus, oh, I just see my mama, she pray all the time. She still sad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna keep praying, even though ain't nobody life changing. Keep going to church on Sunday and Wednesday, but we have a prayer and a dream, but we all still depressed.
Right. It's psychological bondage, and
Mhm.
you know, it's so many. It can be so many different layers of just pain.
Mhm.
And she was also saying that we have a culture of staying out of other people's businesses and personal affairs.
Yeah.
And in that instance, that's like Monique said, that's when y'all all need to be getting together to whoop this nigga ass.
I'm
Because
trying to.
right, that he's messing with these kids. And also not just that, but it limits options for getting support when it's needed. And then when you look at people as being, weak, and they think that, getting help isn't worth the effort, but it's a lot of she said it's a lot of poor communication, unresolved hurt that could be addressed if it wasn't so many layers of pain. It's an ugly cycle, very ugly cycle.
Yeah.
And people need to know that it doesn't make them weak or crazy when they need to seek help.
Yeah. Like, I just, yeah, it's tough, man. Because, like I said, home is your sanctuary, and you don't know anything until the people around you teach you how to deal with life. And I always tell people all the time, I said, honestly, y'all wait till y'all get 19 and enter the world and think you're supposed to learn how to navigate life. But you were specifically put in a family. This family teach you about the world before you enter it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you're in a family and you're like, okay, because your natural instinct as a baby when you're born is to be secure, safe, loved, and cared for, the basic necessities, right? Homes and stuff. If you
Money.
Monique, Monique, I think we lost her.
Mm, yeah. Hopefully she cut back in a minute.
Yeah, I think she might have been in a bad area. um Monique, are you there? No, she didn't turn the microphone.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you.
Oh, yeah. And I ain't even touch it. That's crazy. Okay, Zoom. But like I was saying, if you was born with basic necessities that God gave you, and your family teaches you otherwise, that you don't deserve it. Like you don't deserve to be protected. You don't deserve to be loved. You don't deserve to speak up. Because your voice means something, like a kid. If your child comes up to you and say somebody did something to me, that's their voice. It means something. They had the
Mhm.
courage to speak up. And then you look at them and be like, "I'll go on somewhere." And then you verify that their voice doesn't mean anything by being okay with an abuser or somebody messing with them.
Right.
When
Because
they
I
get
personally
older,
for me, when I told about being sexually abused, when I tell you I got the taste slapped out of my mouth, the taste slapped out of my mouth for coming to tell the truth.
and now why would it make you want to say the truth again?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why you have adults that can't say no. And you
Mhm.
be like, "Why you doing something?" Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. If y'all want to do it, just say no. And they struggle with it. Or, they'll be in a relationship and you can't tell the person, "I don't like that." Like, you can't tell them what you do like or don't love because somebody told you your voice didn't matter.
Mhm.
Or if you did, if they didn't, if they either ignored you, they told you what you said was stupid, or
Right.
nobody cares what you say. So why do you feel like somebody else would?
Right.
If your home front, the people that's supposed to give you security and stuff, says it don't matter, why would you go out into the world and be like it matter? Why would a stranger care? Why would
Mhm.
a therapist care? Why
Mhm.
would a doctor care? And you just produce a whole bunch of people who don't care. And like you were saying, you produce a group of people who be like, "What goes on in this house stays in this house." I'd be like, "Well, honey, if you got full of hell, leave it over there anyway. Because I can't convince you why you shouldn't be in prison
Right.
by hiding it. Because I mean, if you asked, I would help you. But at what cost do you care about yourself enough or believe you're worthy enough to get that?"
Right.
I just think with our little kids, some of them do. I will say that some of them, music and the community and your friends at school and stuff, they do raise you because that's your only example. And unfortunately, sometimes, even though if it's a bad example, you feel more love there than you do from home. Um, but before that, it just starts with the people who's supposed to love you.
Mhm.
Um, Shit, I be thinking now sometimes, I just be so grateful. Like, even with me, I used to be like, "Why I'm so different?" Then I got older, I was like, "I'm so glad God is so good." Because some of the stuff I thought was like, "Oh, I need to be over there."
And
My
you
life would
did.
be so different.
Yeah. Right.
It'd be so different. I would have thought so little of myself in
Mhm.
spite of, because yeah, it's just some people that, even when you listen to them and they say that's love and you look at it and you like, gosh. Or they say this how life's supposed to be, and you be like, man, it's a whole world out here, and you're just like in mental slavery, or
Mhm.
you think you're supposed to be depressed because everybody's depressed, or you're supposed to give up on life and just pray and wait on God. Like, yeah, that's not life. He ain't waiting on you. He's here. He's with you. He's waiting on you to move.
And that's something else she was saying in the book is that people have difficulty recognizing their life purpose because of unrecognized and untreated depression or other emotional health challenges, and you just sitting there praying all the time, and you're not getting
Doing
help.
anything.
Right? You're not getting help. Like you're not finding a competent professional. You're not taking medication. You're not going to group therapy for support. You're not getting help. You're just praying.
You're not moving. You're not finding
Mhm.
different friends. You're not
Right.
finding the things you like. Because I know a lot of kids, like for Madison, I knew when she was young, she was like 2 or 3. And we would buy puzzles. And then her dad would buy her puzzles. And next thing you know, we were like, this is weird as crap. But she was like 2 or 3, but it'd be like a 400 or 500 piece puzzle. You be done in like 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And then, we buy our bigger puzzles and she'll put them together. And then she went to Legos. And you know how Legos, they tell you what to build. She'll like break it down and just build whatever she wanted to build, like whole cities. And like I knew that that was a gift to her. So I made sure not to tell her she couldn't do something that was a passion of hers.
Mhm.
Like that's stupid, or a girl shouldn't do that. That's what boys do, because that affect kids mentally. And I was
Uh,
online one day And this girl was mad because her son want to cook and clean. And I was like, what's wrong with cooking and cleaning? And she said it was gay.
Mm.
And the little boy cried about it all the time, and she was beating him. And I was like, man, can you imagine if he's supposed to be like a world-renowned chef or something? Like, what's wrong with,
Right. Or
well, he
in the
got to be
hospitality industry.
yeah, like you got to be self-sufficient. What's wrong with a man knowing how to cook? Because first of all, if he don't have no wife and nobody to cook for him, like he still need to know how to cook. Like that could be his gift
Right.
of bringing joy to people from cooking. He could own a cleaning company, and she was just stuck on, I'm gonna beat him until he don't want to anymore. And the amount of teenagers and adults who don't know their purpose
Mm-hmm.
because it was beat out of them or redirected, or they think they're gay if they think that way, or they're stupid. No Black person does that. Like that causes a lot of suicidal thoughts for kids too, because they'll say, well, I can't be who I want to be
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not accepted. That's a big thing in our community too.
Yep.
Um,
Definitely it breaks people's spirit.
yeah, because it's like, well, am I gay? Well, I like stuff girls do. I'm supposed to do stuff, that boys do, and it affects them mentally. It's just so much. Black people, we have so many layers of what makes us have mental distress and depression and anxiety. But I just think if people just would just start speaking up about it and say, you know what, this ain't right. Like, this ain't right. You can't keep doing that. Like, I can say if my family did something and it was messed up. And if you think I disrespected you, oh well, like who? So I'm not supposed to love myself to make you comfortable.
Mm.
You can't teach self-love and then be like, you can't, like you were saying, your truth. You can't speak your truth. I'm supposed to not be able to say that wasn't lovable, even though you're my family member or my friend or, whoever. You harmed me.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. And if you're mad about it, I mean, that ain't my problem.
Right. Right. You're right.
you know. But I know a lot of people, like, that's why sometimes people like, you don't never be with folks. I don't be wanting to hang around people, no, they family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't be wanting to do nothing because when you see dynamics, when you don't work so hard on yourself and then you see different stuff and people be wanting you to accept wrong, I have a hard time. My mouth get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. They like, she ruined this stuff. I'm like, oh, no, that ain't what we gonna do. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I don't care who you are. Mm-mm.
I understand what you mean. It's like you spend so much time working on yourself, getting centered. And I'm gonna be honest. I've been having to fight a lot with the energy with being back home because I didn't have to deal with that, when I was in Saudi. Um, and it's hard, number one, because we talked about this before. I'm a really big empath. And
Mm-hmm.
so people's energies definitely affect me. And it's getting to the point where I have to limit my interactions because of that, because I don't want to feel drained. And a lot of these people are, like people can be energy vampires. And
Oh,
sometimes I'm so fatigued that I can't function. I have to take 2 days to just sleep, you know, and like regain my strength. And so it wakes,
I always fuss at you about that.
yeah, yeah.
I be like, what is you doing? Because I'm an empath too. Because that's another thing that's rampant in a Black community. We can
Mhm.
call Christianity or whatever you want to say, witchcraft, voodoo, or whatever. A lot of us have gifts, spiritual gifts. You can be depressed and suicidal, and really it's somebody else's energy,
Mhm.
and they dropped it on you
Mhm.
because they're like, oh, and then they just dump it on you, and then you end up being like, I don't even know why my mood and stuff changed.
Mhm.
And it's because you constantly interacting with people who are on a different frequency
Mhm.
and you're pulling it in. And I tell people all the time, sometimes you'll be like, shoot, when I went around on people for a little while, I felt good.
Right.
But then the minute I go back, I feel bad or things are happening. or stuff. Because I get you all the time. Like, I'd be okay when you be sitting up there helping on folks, but at one point I'd be like, I really want to go there and slap him because he can't work no hard. Then who's here? Like, you got to take a break. I mean, you got to you do have to take a break, and that's just speaking from somebody who been there.
Right.
Like, listen, girl, you can't fight harder than somebody else. It's not your spiritual battle. Because like you said, it can be a week. I've helped people, and then people like, she sure did disappear because I need like 3 or 4 days to regroup and recharge. Now I gotta cleanse myself, and I gotta dump their junk off of me because I now know that wasn't my junk.
Right.
Let me go protect myself. Let me go take that off of me. Those are those people's issues. Can I come and support you? Yeah, but when it comes to point for me supporting you, so now I'm stepping into your thing and taking it over, and you're okay with that, and you walk off. No, you're not finna be that spiritual leech on me.
Exactly.
I worked too hard for that.
Exactly.
And for you to recognize it and be like, I left my environment. People tell me that all the time. When you moving back to Griffin? Never. People act like Griffin so bad. I was born and raised there, but I know that if I go too much, my whole life dynamics change. From what I experienced to what I'm producing in my life, things change. And it's not that it's bad, but at some point you can't battle certain things.
Right.
It becomes you. You start to embody something. If you know you don't belong somewhere, you're not being mean. You just don't belong.
Right. You're right. You're very right.
And you just have to be like, I like you, I love you, but you're not gonna see me every day. I'm not gonna come to your house. You can't come to my house. I'm gonna go to lunch with you. You're not gonna. You can't have my number.
Right.
Why she so bougie? I'm not bougie. I'm trying to protect my
peace.
You got a lot. You can lose it. I can't afford to risk it all.
Right.
That's not I can't. I work too hard to have the piece I have. And you recognize that. It's just hard when you're blessed and you're in those positions. Like you, I'll just say, like I do this. Sometimes you can be an influence on people. People do see that you can make a change and you can make a difference, and that might be your purpose. But like what God said, whom too much is given, much is required. You can't just be willy-nilly with your gift and just, pimping it. Because now you're not actually in your purpose. You're just harming yourself. And so you can be the light for people to see. It can be a change, but you can't make the change for them.
Right.
So you can be in your purpose of what God told you, but if you don't, you harm yourself. And then you have these things that we were talking about, like because teenagers have these things too. My daughter has it. And like that's something with her that I'm working with, and I put her in therapy, like, because I recognize it with me, like, okay, you have a big influence on your friends, but when you have a big influence and you have a light and you have a sound mind and you kind of think a little bit more mature than people, not only do you attract good people, you attract leeches. And there were people that will be harming you. There will be people who hurt you. There will be people that'll just connect with you to try to steal some of your shine because they don't understand why. You have this impact and they don't.
That's
and
true.
Before she gets to be an adult, I need to address that now. If somebody would did that for me when I was her age, I would be like, oh, I'm good. Took me till I was almost 30 to figure out, ain't nothing wrong with you, girl. You just didn't realize what you had and other people did. When it comes to spiritual warfare. So I help her with that. To not be that person that you have these vampires that just drain you. And you think something's wrong, or you're sad, or you're depressed. There's nothing wrong with you. You just picked up some things that you shouldn't have. And be responsible for your peace and the gift that, God gave you. But I think that's a lot of our kids. But yeah. But it is what it is. But I ain't gonna say nothing about that no more about you though, because
I know it. I recognize it, and I've been trying to do things to, keep myself protected. Um,
I mean, seriously, like sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna hop on my inbox. I ain't gonna say nothing though.
mhm.
I'm gonna comment on the video, but I'm gonna be quiet. Then I'm like, who the hell she? I ain't gonna say.
But no, it's a lot of saging. It's a lot of mindful centering. It's a lot of I need to make sure I got my crystals charged up before I head out the door type stuff. But yeah, it's a
Oh
lot.
yeah, people like you take a bath a lot because I'm finna start selling them. I do behind the scenes. I do for people who request it. 'Cause you know how people ask about spiritual stuff as if
Mhm.
it's not in the Bible. But I was like, the best thing I could have ever did is talk to God and started my rituals. And I just be in my bath. I create my bath salts for a certain intention. And I have to cleanse myself. I have to center myself. I have to meditate. I have my crystals and like my relationship with God. I don't care what it looks like nobody else, but that's like my main source of guidance because without it, you can easily, people will recognize that you have um, this particular anointing and they'll just want you to do things for you, for them. Hey, or they just want to connect with you to take it.
Right.
You know, I see her thriving. I see she's smart. I see she make impact. I'm just gonna find a way to plug in
Mhm.
and take it or make her do stuff. Since she's so blessed, I'll just drop my responsibilities on her and she'll get it done.
Right.
You know, and then you take on more than what you were assigned to do. Um, and that goes for a lot of people. People who want to be self-ordained. I'll be so confused. How you ordain yourself as a minister? You better not be praying for everybody. Jesus didn't even pray for everybody. I mean, not understanding. You read a whole scripture and you be like, who touched me? Y'all come up with all these different types of scenarios. I'd be like, he knew somebody touched him because they weren't supposed to be doing it.
Mhm.
He was so in tune with God. He was like, wait a minute, somebody just spiritual plugged into me. What's going on?
Right. Exactly. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
If only I was that in tune where I could recognize it when it happens.
I ain't gonna say that.
She
I
did go
think you
to a
do.
chapter.
I
He
think
said,
you do.
"You think I do?"
Yeah, I think you do. I'm gonna tell you what's hard being an empath, and we're talking about this in mental health because most empaths. The only reason why I'm bringing this up, and I know you said the first chapter was about kids. The only reason why I'm bringing this up, when you're an empath, most people who truly have a gift, that's why God said, "Whom too much is given, much required." They always deal with depression.
Mm.
They always deal with anxiety, and they always deal with stress. That's why when people be like, a pastor committed suicide, he must then believe in God. Yes, he absolutely did. But when you're an empath, you have to be mindful of who you're working with. If God specifically say to you, I want you to work with this person, or he didn't tell you ahead of time this is what's going on and you need to do it, and you just willy-nilly go do it, because most empaths have an open heart. Your heart centered.
Right.
You don't like to see humanity hurt. And you will do stuff that people be like, you're crazy. I know people do me like that. I'm like, well, I care for them, but I might do something and I kind of like make sure to separate myself, be like, okay, God, I'm gonna do this and just that and enough, because my heart just wants to help, even if some to the detriment of somebody hurts me or makes me look like a fool. In my mind, what I did what God told me to do.
Right.
But at some point, you got to be like, okay, well, did he tell me? Or I'm just doing it because I'm just so spiritually drawn to help. I'm a natural healer or leader or supporter, a motherly like energy that you have to be mindful and say, well, I can't give it all away.
Right.
What if I'm not even supposed to give it away to this particular person and I'm just doing it because something triggered me to do it, and that wasn't even your assignment, that was somebody else's issue to deal with. So I think but I just think your feelings override I'm sick of this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
To get it done. That's what I think you just there's nothing wrong with that. God made you that way. But the more and more you become aware and the more and more you connect to the source, the more you realize it's a time for everything. Everything is not your assignment.
That is true.
Mhm.
We're
That's
talking.
what I'm about to write on my little board. Everything is not your assignment.
Everything's not your assignment. No matter how hard, no matter how much it hurts you. You know how many times I've sit and be like, oh my God, like I feel sad at the point that I see people. I'm like, why are they doing that? And you just want them to do something different, but I have to just shut up and let it happen because it's not my assignment.
Right. Words to live by. Everything is not your assignment.
Mm-mm. And I don't care what people tell you. Yes, it is, and you're so great at it. Everything is not your assignment. It's a time and a season for everything. And just like you have that gift, somebody else does. And everybody, God chooses different people for different people. And I might can help 10 people in a crowd. I can't help all 50.
Right.
All 50 might not be my assignment. It probably only be 10 who can resonate with what I'm saying and go make a difference. Because when God works through you, the people he assigns to you, they have an ear to hear because they want that transition and they take what God said through you to them and they do something about it. When you got the wrong assignment, when you keep saying something and they be doing amen, but don't nothing change. That's
Mm-hmm.
not your assignment. They assigned to somebody else. It just ain't you. Try Jesus, don't try you. You just need to go somewhere else.
Try Jesus.
Yeah, because at that point you're not, like I said, if the creator assigned you to help them, that person had a need before the creator assigned you to help them.
Right.
Say like you go pray, right? God already knows who's gonna answer your prayer. They're gonna find you, or you're gonna be somewhere, and somebody, whether you see them face to face and they help you, or they behind the desk somewhere and you just turned in some paperwork, and that particular person God assigned to make it go through when you didn't even qualify. Those are assignments. But if you go somewhere and you're helping somebody and there's no progress, nothing's thriving, nothing's growing, fruit is not produced, that's not your assignment. Or it take a mental toll on you. You know, you'd be like, why I'm depressed, why I'm so sad, why I'm having anxiety.
Yeah.
That's a big thing amongst Black people, especially spiritual Black people. You always have to put your mental and spiritual health first, or if not, you will deal with mental issues all the time. And nobody wants that mental battle.
Yeah, because um she talks about us having to have high psychological fortitude um when it comes to just dealing with everyday stuff. Now
Yeah.
uh never thought about using a quick self-check rating, but she just gave like this 0 to 10 rating scale where
Mm-hmm.
10 means you feel phenomenal, nothing and no one can break your spirit. 7 with pass is okay. Like if you had a stressful day at work, you could recover. You had worse days and you know that this day will pass. A 3 would be not okay. Like you feel completely overwhelmed with life. And
Mm-hmm.
and if one more thing happens, you just don't know how you're gonna get out. And 0 would be the lowest possible level. Your circumstances are bleak and you have zero desire to go on with life. So I wanted us to check in with each other and on a scale of 0 to 10, say how we feel today.
Shoot, I'm at a 10. I have no fucks. Happy.
I'm at a 7 today, but only because I'm waiting for my baby to get back from Myrtle Beach. So
Oh,
when she gets back at a 10.